Good morning, everyone. It's March 28th, so that means it's time for another curriculum committee meeting. I'll call the meeting to order, and if there are no changes, additions, or deletions to the agenda, I'll look for a motion to approve. Ms. Helms and Ms. Sturdivant, second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Number 2, curriculum committee meeting minutes from February 28th. If there are no additions or deletions or corrections, I'll look for a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
I'll give you a second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 3, Apprenticeship Collaborative, formerly known as UCLA.
Good morning. I will ask, okay, I've got Mr. Filter here also with me, but as you remember, last fall, we began talking about a program to support students who really struggle with the traditional schooling model. And over the course of the year, we've gone through various models as we've worked with our community members, worked with staff to find what may be appropriate model, a location. These are all issues that we've looked at throughout the year, and basically at this point we're ready to unveil what we are calling Union County College and Career Academy. And you have a handout for that academy, and I guess starting off with it, just a little bit more of a background. This academy is all based on really hands-on instruction for students that find difficulty learning in the traditional environment, which many people have called sort of the sit and get, even though with our empowered framework that has changed and will continue to change. But still, students across our district and every school can identify students that fit the model for what this particular academy will be all about. Hands-on, career-based, elective opportunities, all within a framework of problem-based learning, especially with our core instruction, which is our English, Math, Science, Social Studies, where students problem solve everyday life questions in that problem-based model. Working on cross-curricular, right? When we talk problem-based learning, we also are talking cross-curricular learning, meaning that we may pair math and science on a particular topic, and students will move through the standard course of study on a problem while working the science or math standards that they are supposed to be working with at that time. It is very innovative. It's very creative. And with that said, that's sort of the framework of what everyday life kind of will be like with our core. We're also adding in the whole elective side in what that is. And that is hands-on activity-based instruction within a framework that is the base that will be centered on career readiness. Yes, it's college and career. We're still teaching the standard course of study, and we will prepare students to be college ready. But this is when the students graduate, they will, the idea is that they are employable and they have all of those skills, soft skills, and job skills that we would expect out of our graduates, and what our community has been clamoring for is students that are ready to work, go right into industry, and be employable. And with me here today, I've got Mr. Filter, who is has been instrumental in sort of laying out what a schedule would look like for a student who enters in the 10th grade. And we chose 10th grade because we want to identify the students who have not been as successful as they could be, even though they have the potential for success, they haven't. And we want to give students that 9th grade year and be able to identify those students for this particular program. And so at this time, I will ask Mr. Filter to talk us through what the schedule may look like on for these students. And as he gets started, our facility, working with Dr. Farr, Maria Farr at SPCC, she has given us access to the Tyson Center on Charlotte Highway. If you've over by SPCC, if you've ever driven by there, you've seen that, and it's phenomenal. But Mr. Filter took a tour of the facility, and he can also kind of explain what that looks like as well.
So we start from a 10th grade model perspective, and what we want to do is introduce students to the world of work and hands-on working. So what we looked at is introducing students to safety and tools and fasteners and mechanisms, measuring devices, those type of things. And so we selected courses from a mechanical manufacturing perspective, advanced manufacturing 1 and 2, and then an option for a construction model. So those tools might be a little bit different, but they're going to be fairly general. We included a drafting course so they can start the idea of designing and drawing and things like that. That would also include a computer model drafting as well. We've included a career management side and possibly a robotic side on the manufacturing. And then as we look and moving that from the 10th grade model to the 11th and 12th grade, I worked with Dr. Maria Lander at South Piedmont Community College, and we looked at career and college promise courses, again, that would be engaging to students and prepare them for the world of work. And so we looked at a pre-apprenticeship opportunity and mechatronics side on the industrial maintenance and mechatronics pathway, and selected courses, DC and AC electricity, industrial safety, mechanisms, hydraulics and pneumatics, and then intro to PLC on the on that side. And then from a construction side, South Piedmont currently doesn't have this, but they are prepared to put this package together in its foundations of construction, or construction foundations. And we'll introduce them to the main focus, construction, and then each of the individual that go into construction, residential wiring, an intro to plumbing, intro to refrigeration, and then a welding course. It gives them a broad base of everything that they need to enter into the construction world. And when they graduate as a senior, then they'll have an idea of, do I want to go into construction management, or did I like electrical trades, or did I like plumbing, all of which are very good paying jobs as they move in right out of high school and potential. We're looking at credentials that they can obtain from these courses. Certainly they'll obtain an OSHA credential as they're going through it. On the construction side, there's NCCER credentials. And on the mechatronics and industrial maintenance side, there's an MCCT maintenance credential as well. And we'll look at others along the way as we can add to that. The South Piedmont Community College Tyson Family of Center of Technology, they have classrooms there available for us that they're going to share with us. They have a large industrial lab that they're going to make available to us, and as well as a large welding lab on the back side of that campus. That's first year. They're in the process of building and adding on to the back. They're going to expand their machining shop. They're going to expand their current welding shop, as well as have a bank of classrooms along an upper floor on the back side. So that's going to be potentially available for us to utilize as well. So we have enough room for our first cohort of 10th graders, and then we'll have room to expand as we move on to 11th and 12th grade.
A couple questions, if I may. You're anticipating implementation for the 2020 school year?
Yes, sir.
Correct.
In the fall.
Okay. How many, what will be our capacity initially for the 10th graders?
So we're looking at about 15 at
15 to
we
20.
could hold more
So
than
about
that,
2
15 to
per
20.
traditional high school.
Okay.
2 students per traditional high school. might
And
be
we'll
the
go
model.
through, I'm sure you develop criteria for the selection process and working with the school counselors, the principals, and what have
Find
you.
those students that fit this model, correct?
Okay. Will we be right? And so all the classroom and the entire program will be housed at SPCC?
Yes.
Will we be providing transportation for the students to SPCC
Yes, sir.
and back
Yes.
home?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. One other thing I wanted to recommend, we had talked previously briefly about a life sciences type class with real world skills. I think it would be critical if we could embed some of that somewhere in the curriculum for these students. Reason being, you're preparing these kids to go straight out in the workforce at a significant opportunity for earnings. So they're going to need to do taxes. They're going to need to do budgeting. They're going to need to understand how to buy a car and maybe even someday soon a house. So I would submit that these type of real life skills are going to be even more critical for these students because we are preparing them to almost immediately transition into a worthwhile job. And who knows, they might end up a year or so out of high school earning more than their parents, and they're sure as heck ready to go out on their own. And so they're going to need to know about a lease and things like that. I would like to see if you could embed some type of class along those lines somewhere in their curriculum before they graduate. That's just my 2 cents.
No, and I think we can do that. One of the things we had, as you see career management on the construction side, just to give them an idea and exposure to different careers, and that has some flexibility to add some of that to that. One of the other items that we did have on here was a personal finance class.
Okay.
But with current legislation looking to possibly add that, we wanted to see how that played out before we made any decisions.
Okay.
Specifically putting it into this model.
Things like interviewing skills,
Right.
filling out a job application, how do you fill out a W-2, along with personal budgeting, personal finance, things like that.
And those would be in
I
the
think-
career management course.
I
included in
think that would be a great addition. Great. I'm glad to hear that's under consideration. Anyone else have any other questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. And first, Gary, you presented some really good questions. Since the program seems a bit fluid, when you mentioned transportation, am I talking to a? Can you hear me now? I apologize. Again, Gary, you presented some great questions. In regards to transportation, do you mean like transportation from their homes, or transportation from a school?
Yes, ma'am. And we are going to piggyback on the Union County Early College, and their transportation is right down the road. And we're basically going to combine both of those schools, so to speak, even though this is not, kind of leads me into another portion here. This is not yet a standalone school, and students will still be tied to their home school as far as who they really belong to. And so until we can get through the state to get them get this program as a standalone, and that's ultimately the goal, is through the CIHS, which Union County Early College is also a part of. But we will be partnering with Early College in their transportation system. So students will be either dropped off first at the UCCCA, and then other students will be taken to SPCC, that they're there, or vice versa. It just depends on the schedule.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And how do we identify the students? Which students will participate in this program?
Well, it's really a basis on how the students performed their first year in the traditional model, and what this model is. And when we ask principals at a last level meeting, if they explain the program and every single principal says, I know at least 2 students who would want to be a part of this program because they're intelligent, they're smart, but they just, they are just not buying into the traditional model right now. It's not that they can't, it's just, they're just not tuned in. And this is supposed to be, yes, it's a learning environment first and foremost, but we want to make this a hands-on, fun, active environment in which students can re-engage in the school system and see what they're putting in is something they're going to be able to get out as they progress through the system. Apprenticeships, when they get into their pre-apprenticeships, into their senior year, and they get closer to that and working with industry and mentoring. That's what this program's all about. And so, going back through the history as a principal, I know students would have loved to have this program and to be embedded into something like that they feel a belonging to. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I agree, 100%.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I just want to say it's just another example of how we realize that everybody learns in a different way. Plus the opportunity we're giving them there. I'm excited to see it start, and I can't wait to see it expand.
We really
think
think
it's
our
an opportunity.
Yes, sir. Think our community is really going to love it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Tina, do you have any questions? Okay. One last question. Do you anticipate, as we get some experience under our belt, expanding the offerings? In other words, like into maybe an automotive science type curriculum?
It's interesting that automotive was one of those items that we talked about or thought about.
Mm-hmm.
However, right now, South Piedmont is using Central Academy for their automotive courses, so it's not right there on that campus. So it makes it a little bit difficult, but we will continue to look at different options for students that fit best for the students as well as for local industry.
Great. If there are no other questions, I'll look for a motion to recommend approval of the implementation of this program to the full board at the April meeting. Second by Ms. Sturdivant. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Felter.
Thank you.
Number 4, dual language expansion.
Okay, this one is coming back. If you remember last, and I take responsibility for that. If you remember last meeting, we had this as informational, and this may be something good for the full board to see what's happening across our district and to kind of bring that to them. So I'm bringing it back, asking Ms. Garner just to kind of highlight again just a few things about the expansion and move this into an action item to take to the full board in case they have any questions that we can answer for them as well.
Hold on. Are there any, since we discussed this last meeting at length, is there any questions from any of the committee members? Would anyone like to make a motion to?
I have a question.
Okay, please.
Can you remind me which immersion program Wingate's participating in?
Yes, there'll be a two-way immersion program.
Two-way immersion.
Mm-hmm. 41% of their students are Hispanic. And so the two-way refers to the native language of the students that'll be participating. So it's the model of having students having bilingual pairs so that they can learn from each other's cultures. Mm-hmm.
If there are no other questions, I'll leave it to the committee. If you'd like to, I'll entertain a motion to approve and move it on to the full board, or recommend approval to the full board, or if you'd like to hear Ms. Garner's presentation again, I'll leave it up to you. I'm ready to go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
No.
Would you like to make the motion?
I'll make a motion that we move it forward.
Okay. Ms. Sturdivant, second. All in favor of recommending to the full board for approval of the expansion of the DLI? Say aye. Aye. Great. All right. Item number 5, international school programming.
Okay, so this is an item that comes really from the idea of schools choosing their identity, and we just wanted to share information with you about a slightly different model that a couple of our schools are looking into. And so this is Stallings Elementary School, that is a school of choice this year, and Rayview Elementary. They are partnered together, and they have surveyed their community and would like to move forward with the idea of an international school model, where the goal of this is they've both been working toward a focus on problem-based learning, project-based learning. And so really what they would like to do is take that focus on STEAM and combine it with sort of this really an idea of global preparedness. And so they are looking at the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as kind of the anchor for this work. And if you're not familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, some of them include no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being. So really just problems that affect people all over the world, both in the United States as well as all over the world, and anchoring the Union County curriculum units to these Sustainable Development Goals to give kids more of a purpose for why are we learning the things that we're learning? So really taking that problem-based learning focus and giving it a real world global focus and bringing that in. As part of that, they have found within their allotments for next year a way to offer students exposure to 2 different languages. They surveyed their community, and the top runner, the top vote getter for those was Spanish. There was no clear second language that came out. There were kind of equal interest across multiple languages. So we're still trying to figure out what that might look like, but they're really looking at bringing their problem-based learning and STEM focus together through this international school model.
And will this require any type of budget consideration, or is that already been put into the proposed budget from the superintendent? Or
so they found the positions within their current allotment, so they're not asking for anything additional with that. And I believe that this would be part of, there's no major funding piece that comes with this, no.
Okay. So you're just looking for approval to recommend to the full board for them to give the go-ahead to implement?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from any of the committee members? Not, I will entertain a motion to recommend approval to the full board. Ms. Helms makes the motion. I have a second.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay. NC Reform Model Report.
All right.
Dr. Harris, welcome.
We'll ask Dr. Harris to come to the table, but both Monroe Middle and East Union Middle are part of a targeted reform model with the state of North Carolina, as are hundreds of other schools across the state, as you all are aware. And so at this point, both of those schools have had to go through a process to submit their report to the state about how things are going at the school. And so Dr. Harris has worked very closely with both Mr. Sanders and Mr. Ferguson, and will address the committee with the report.
Good morning, everybody. Just to piggyback on what Dr. Breedlove stated, DPI has asked all of our restart schools to complete a reform model or plan. We started with East Union and Monroe Middle School. Our restart schools are any school that received a D or a F or lower than exceeded growth. Those schools have the flexibility of extended day, flexibility of additional funding, and the flexibility of hiring. The plan is a 3-year plan. For the first 2 years we're collecting formative information, subgroup data, EOG data, and they're developing goals. On that 3rd year is summative information or data, and the goal, we're going to see if the goals have been met, and they're identifying trends for those 2 schools. The superintendent, to ensure those goals are met, the superintendent does meet with all the schools, providing any additional information or funding that they might need. Example, Read 180 or extended after-school funds. And we will start the following year with the rest of the reform schools. So we'll start that documentation with the rest of our restart schools for the reform plan. That's basically what it's all about.
It's really a checklist for our schools just to make sure that they are making progress, and based on the presentations that Dr. Bowers does each year to the full board, to the curriculum committee, and to the full board, we've done that presentation this year about their progress. And as you know, that those schools are progressing. There is a lot going on, both at the Health Science Academy at Monroe Middle, as well as our work with East Union Middle, as they're embarking on a number of different programs with AVID and their work with Wingate University as they get further into a STEM model for that school around just various things that, such as ag tech and just science in general across the board. So we're really excited about the movement that they've made with the flexibility that comes along with this reform model, as well as the EPIC grant and what that's done to really help bring financial support to those schools as well.
Dr. Harris, could I ask you a couple quick questions? Have either of those middle schools implemented a Saturday school? I know we have a couple of high schools that have implemented that, bringing in for some extra work, extra help, tutoring, providing a meal, providing transportation.
Both of those schools were looking at doing that as we get closer to the EOGs, as a help stop for our EOGs plans.
Okay. Do they feel like they have adequate funding to implement that?
If they don't, they know to ask. So
Okay.
absolutely.
They're not shy about it.
Absolutely
Okay.
not.
Anything anticipated for over the summer break to continue the momentum? Is any kind of summer school provisions? Anything extra tutoring available? I just know personally, my son in transitioning to middle school, we found a little 2-week-long math camp that was provided by a private tutor, and it was a big help in the transition from elementary to middle. And I'm just wondering if we might be able to make that type of assistance available to middle school students. Is anything like that on the drawing board?
Not overall for the entire school. Wayfind will have a summer program. Wayfind is something that's connected with Wingate University, and they're working closely with the university, and they are going to have a summer program. So that's only a small number of kids, but
Sure.
we're looking to expand.
Okay. And will that focus on math, reading, all of the above, or?
It's a general focus, so there will be some college focus. There will be some math and reading focus along with that. But like I said, it's a very small program at this time.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone else on the committee? Okay.
Thank you.
Now, we have that down as an item for approval. So we need to recommend approval of implementation or support at the full board meeting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Look for a motion to recommend approval to the full board.
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion, need a second. Have a second from Ms. Helms, all in favor? Aye. Aye. Thank you, Dr. Harris. All right, number 7, sole source purchase of our butterflies,
Yes.
our butterfly kits.
Butterfly kits. And this is part of our science kits that we provide all of our elementary schools and are put together by our elementary department. Sole source butterfly kits basically are life cycles of butterflies that start with the cocoon and metamorphosis right into obviously into butterflies from the caterpillar to the cocoon to the butterfly. And students, what they basically do is they journal each day as they watch the chrysalis eventually hatch into the butterfly, and it's kind of a exciting thing. You get into other discussions as well, and because guess what? Not all of them hatch, so to speak, and so those discussions take place about the life cycles and that with our students. So it really gives them an in-depth look of nature in general when it comes to that. And this is the only company that provides it, and we've done this every year for a number of years with our students, and they really seem to enjoy it.
The only question I had was I was trying to do the math, and we're ordering 84 kits, and I just wanted to make sure that's the number of total second grade classrooms we have. Can anybody confirm all that?
We have, yes, and that's a great question. And I have verified with Cindy Crawford, our director of elementary, that
Okay.
that is in fact true. It's one for every classroom.
All right. Any questions from anyone on the committee? If not, I'll look for a motion to recommend approval to the full board. You started. I think Ms. Helms is trying to second. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay. All righty. We'll move on from butterflies to summer school. Summer program proposal.
Okay. Our summer program proposal, this year, we have the ability to help our students progress. When we talk about testing, students are given a score of 1 through 5 on an EOC or EOG. Unfortunately, even in a system like ours that is highly successful, we do have students that traditionally score a 1 or a 2. There aren't many, but there are some. And up to this point, we have not had the ability to retest, and the state has made that this remediation and this available to students to come back in that have traditionally scored a 1 or a 2 and be remediated, retaught, and then at the end, once school is out, to bring them back in to retest. And so this really is an opportunity for our students to show what they really do know. And we all know students that don't test very well, even though they know the material. Anxiety and just things happen. And so that day of that one exam, all of a sudden they do not score very well and sometimes fail the exam, which causes them to fail the class as well. So this is a great opportunity for our school system to help our students progress and be able to identify areas of weakness, remediate those areas of weakness, and then also give them the ability to retest in those subject areas. And so that's really, before you have the plan, it kind of shows you the number of students who grades 4 through English 2, however age that is, students that in years past may have not passed those exams. And so when you look at it that way, that's a significant number. And if we can help a student master the standards even further and progress through gaining credit for a course or passing a course, then we sort of had the obligation to do so, especially if the state gives us the ability to do so.
Am I to read this correctly? 8,266 scores are candidates for this that weren't acceptable?
Yes, sir. When you look at every single test across
Right.
every single grade, even
It's
though
eligible.
some of those scores are the same student.
Right.
So a fourth grader may be on this list twice for English and math.
Yeah.
For example.
So everybody catch that. It's not necessarily students, it's by test.
That is correct.
I would be very interested in knowing how many students that entails. And so if I'm reading this correctly, we're going to give them 1 day of instruction and then retest.
It's not necessarily.
Okay.
In middle school, for example, students test a lot earlier than like we do in high school, for example. There are 2 weeks there after a test is taken and returned to the school
Before the end
that
of school.
students then and teachers have the ability to remediate students. And so the test itself has to take place following the last day of school for students. And so when you look at the overall costs and things associated with that, we're really not looking at the human cost of our teachers, hiring them for a summer program,
Mhm.
that those teachers are still working. and, always finding things to do for students. We always want them to be active in school and continuing that education. Even though the final exam's done, this is an opportunity for us to work with the students for 10 additional school days, especially if a student only missed passing by 1, 2, 3 questions. That's plenty of time to work and remediate and give those students an opportunity to retest at the end of the year.
So it's not really technically a summer school program because the staff is still working.
That's correct.
It isn't on summer break yet. I shouldn't say working. So what you're saying is from the last day for students up until the EOGs are completed to the last day of students, they have the opportunity for remediation. And then there's technically 1 day from the 6th to the 7th when they take the tests for additional. So that's misleading. It looks like you're only given 1 day of instruction, but actually you're getting the opportunity from when the last test is given also to do remediation.
The opportunity is definitely there to do that. And as a former principal, I can tell you that, yes, we would take
That's
that
all you're
opportunity if it was given to us.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else on the committee have any questions? If not, I'll entertain a move. Oh, okay. Sure. Could you find out, and this is the number of scores is based on, of course, last year, the 8266. Could you just find out, just somebody email out to the committee how many students that actually turned out to be?
Yes, sir. We can work on that.
So all schools will be given this opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
So all 52 schools.
Yes.
And the staff and personnel, that the individuals that are assisting the students, they're volunteering, they're not being paid.
You said the teachers that are assisting the students?
Well, it says staff and personnel.
Correct, because school for them is still going on. We have additional work days after the last day of for students that go into that following week, in which teachers are cleaning up their classrooms and doing those sort of things. This is not and I will back up and say that this is not a new model. This retesting and the remediation was something that our state did many years ago, and for whatever reason, they did away with it. So for the last 10 years, 12 years, it may not be that long, but it's probably very close, that we haven't had the ability to do this. So we're basically taking that old car we've had out in the shed and dusting it off and trying to restart this and get this back going again, something that we've had. So to answer that question, yes, it's not volunteer, but they will be working with their students during those additional work days.
To follow up on your analogy, while the car was in the shed, what were we using to get back and forth? Were we waiting until the next school year and then trying to catch up?
That or summer school for students that didn't pass. We do a lot of work through online learning in our facilities, in our labs, in school, that each high school will continue to have that for other coursework besides EOGs and EOCs, but this will definitely cut into the number of students that are having to go in and retake those classes.
And transportation is provided to the school and from the school.
That's yes, ma'am, and that's what we want to provide, transportation, so that we can ensure that all of our students have the ability to come in and retest as well.
This is elective, though.
It is. We won't force this on any parent or any student, but we will highly encourage them that this is an opportunity for their students who want it to come in and retest.
So go ahead.
So when retesting, what if the score is lower?
The student will continue to keep the highest of the two scores. That's a good question.
what happens in the event of a plan B? Either the retake doesn't get them where they need to be, or they elect not to take this option. Then they go into the next school year and we have to pick up where we left off.
Traditionally, committees are formed for students that do not pass or make proficiency at level 3 or higher. Those committees determine through portfolio process whether or not the student is passed on to the next grade level, or if those students need additional remediation into the following year, or come in for summer school if they did not pass the class, given that option. If they don't, particularly at the high school level, those students would have to retake the course at that point if it's a graduation requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So this would pretty much be it. If they did not choose this option, and then the student wouldn't have any further, there would be no further testing or anything like that over
At
the
that
summer.
point,
That's the end of it.
sir,
Okay.
that's the end of it.
Okay.
I do have one final question. So the cost for running the buses, $90,000, does that include paying the bus drivers?
Yes, it does. Yeah, that includes mileage and payment.
Now that's a normal school day we run, so we don't know what the figures would be.
If we correct, and it may be that's a ballpark figure until we get those final numbers and know, but we really think that we could do it within that number. We've worked with transportation to kind of guide us in developing that number, and what our hopes are is that, you know, many of the students may elect just their parent to drive them in, and this every single student wanted to ride the bus in.
Gotcha.
That's what that number is really reflective of.
Gotcha. Good. Any other questions? Okay. If not, well, look for a motion to recommend approval by the full board.
I make a motion.
Have a motion, need a second. Second by Ms. Helms. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next meeting date. Believe it or not, we are coming up next month with spring break already. And as a consequence, if you will, we're going to pull our meeting a week forward. So that would be April 18th. Same location, same time, 8:30. And we will take on our curriculum business then. Any other questions or any other business to come before the committee? If not, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Nope. Thank you. Have a motion, need a second.
Second.
All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much for attending.